you think your suffering is a cosmic accident, that the universe owes you something, or that luck simply hasn't smiled upon you? This is the lie that keeps you a slave. The lie of the walking dead who wait for external salvation while planting the seeds of their own destruction every second. You are not suffering because fate is cruel. You are suffering because you do not understand the engineering of the system you yourself operate. And while you continue to think you are a victim, karma continues to execute the code you entered, without mercy, without exception, with absolute mathematical precision. Your current chaos is not random. It is the perfect mathematical result of causes you planted yesterday, last year, or that were planted in you before you were even born. You are a side effect of your own history. Every thought you repeat, every reaction you allow, every pattern you execute on autopilot is writing lines of code that the system will process. And the system does not lie. It does not negotiate. It has no mercy. It simply executes. Input generates output. Action generates consequence. Cause generates effect. You are the programmer, but you have been operating like the walking dead, running old scripts you don't even remember installing. This content will not console you with stories of divine justice or romantic karma. It will show you the cold physics of karma, the exact Buddhist mental engineering of how you build your own hell or your own sovereignty. No luck, only causality. No destiny, only inertia that can be broken. No victim, only total responsibility for every line of code you run. If you came seeking emotional relief or promises that everything will magically resolve itself, you are in the wrong place. Here you will learn to track causes, clean code, and rewrite patterns. And this hurts infinitely more than anesthesia, but it is the only thing that works. Karma has become synonymous with mystical justice, a celestial point system where good is rewarded and evil is punished. This romanticization is dangerous anesthesia. It keeps you waiting for external salvation while you ignore the only brutal truth. You are planting the causes of your own suffering every second. The spiritual market sold the idea that karma is a cosmic judge who will punish your enemies and reward your goodness. But Buddhist karma is not justice, it is consequence. Karma without romanticization is this: you insert causes, the system processes them, you receive outputs. No morals, no drama, no mystical meaning. It is mental physics, and as long as you do not understand this operationally, you will continue to be a passive plaything of your own reactions. This content is not about the law of attraction or positive thinking. It does not promise that everything will work out if you are good or vibrate high. It does not exist to give you cheap hope or to validate your victimization. It is not self-help. It is not motivation. It is not comfortable spirituality. It is a manual of Buddhist mental engineering for those who are tired of suffering for the same reasons and finally want to understand the mechanism that generates this loop. Karma is not a belief. It is physics. It is the law of cause and effect applied to consciousness. Pratitya samutpada, dependent origination, means that everything is connected in a network of causes. Nothing happens in isolation. Nothing is random in your suffering. There is always a traceable cause. And when you learn to track causes with lucidity, when you see the code running in your mind, you can finally intervene. You can rewrite patterns. You can break karmic loops. You can stop being a victim and become a programmer of reality. Understanding this does not save you from suffering. Pain remains a part of existence, but it takes you out of the position of the walking dead, reacting blindly, and places you in the position of the operator of lucidity, consciously choosing which causes to plant. And this shift in posture from "why me" to "what code am I running?" is everything. In original Buddhism, pratitya samutpada, dependent origination, means that nothing exists in isolation. Everything is the effect of prior causes. You are not a free individual making choices in a vacuum. You are a point of convergence for trillions of causes: biological, cultural, traumatic, environmental. The web of interdependence simultaneously sustains you and imprisons you. When I say this, I am not engaging in abstract philosophy. I am describing the exact mechanism of how you operate. The free will that the ego loves so much is an illusion. You are a data process. If the output, your current life, is suffering, it is because the inputs were configured for it, not out of divine malice, but out of blind Buddhist causality. And you, like the walking dead, continue to believe your choices are free. The brutal revelation that no one wants to hear: illusory free will is necessary for the ego to survive. It needs to believe in absolute control because that provides a sense of power. But when you truly understand pratitya samutpada, you realize there is no you separate from the network of causes. You are the web. Every thought you have right now is the result of previous thoughts, past experiences, cultural conditioning, and unprocessed traumas. You didn't choose to be born into the family you were born into. You didn't choose the country, the era, the genetics, or the initial traumas. This perception is terrifying for those who want to feel special. The ego needs the narrative that I am unique, I choose my destiny, but the logic of karma does not care about your narratives. It simply executes. The immediate application of this changes everything. Look at any current problem in your life: a toxic relationship, accumulated debt, deteriorating health. Do not ask, why did this happen to me, like a cosmic victim. Ask, what sequence of causes and conditions generated exactly this output? When you can track causes with lucidity, suffering stops being personal and becomes just a bug in the system. Are you in debt? Track it. You repeatedly spent more than you earned. Why? Trying to fill an emotional void with consumption. Why? You never learned to inhabit the void without anesthesia. See, Buddhist causality is surgical. There is no mystery, only cause and effect operating with mathematical precision. The walking dead blame fate. The conscious elite perform a mental debug. But here is the perverse trick. Understanding Buddhist interdependence does not make you powerless. It makes you an operator of lucidity. Because if everything is cause and effect, if nothing is random, then you can begin to consciously manipulate causes instead of reacting blindly. You cannot change the past. The causes have already been planted, but you can rewrite causes now, in this second, which will generate different outputs tomorrow. You are a programmer of reality rather than a victim of it. And this shift in posture, from why me to what code am I running, is exactly what separates those who remain trapped in karmic loops from those who manage to break karmic loops through rigor and discipline. But to break the loop, you must first see the code, and seeing the code requires cutting through the illusion that you are free. Karma is not divine justice. Karma does not punish evil and reward good. This romanticization is spiritual anesthesia that keeps you waiting for external salvation. Buddhist karma is consequence. Action generates reaction, period. No cosmic morality, no invisible judge, no mystical meaning. Karma without romanticization is this: you insert causes through thoughts, actions, and habits. The system processes and returns outputs, results, suffering, pleasure, not because you deserve it or don't deserve it, but because it is mental physics. The logic of karma is as neutral as gravity. If you jump off a building, you fall, not because the universe hates you, because it is the law of cause and effect. The walking dead wait for cosmic justice. The operator of lucidity understands cold causality. The most precise metaphor: if you write code with an error, the program crashes. The computer is not punishing you for being a bad programmer. It is merely executing the logic you inserted. Karma as an algorithm works exactly like this. You insert causes: chronic anger, systematic procrastination, negligence of the body, and the mechanism processes them without emotion. The output arrives: social isolation, financial crisis, illness. And you, like the walking dead, look at the output and scream injustice, but there is no injustice. There is only mental input and output. You planted anger. You harvested loneliness, planted fear. You harvested paralysis, planted negligence. You harvested collapse. The network of causes does not lie. It merely executes with industrial precision what you programmed. Karma is not justice. It is mathematical consequence. In human suffering, nothing is random. If there is dukkha, mental friction, there is a traceable cause. It may be a cause you planted yesterday, or a structural cause of the society you were born into, but it exists. Hell is not a mystical place with fire and demons. Hell is the loop of repeating the same causes while expecting different outputs. It is trying to resolve debt by spending more. It is trying to cure loneliness with more isolation. It is trying to alleviate anxiety with more escape. The walking dead live in this loop and call it bad luck. The conscious elite recognize that it is karmic inertia. You are running an old script on autopilot without ever questioning the code. Suffering has a cause, always, and when you stop looking for external culprits and start tracking causes, you can finally intervene in the system. The interdependent prison works like this. You are trapped in a web where your every action reverberates through the system. Every time you act out of reactivity, anger, or fear, you are writing lines of code that the system will execute. You cannot cancel the execution after the output has already been generated. You can only overwrite it with new causes. And here is what the spiritual market never tells you. Karma has latency. There is a karmic delay. You don't necessarily plant anger today and harvest loneliness tomorrow. It can take weeks, months, years, but the system does not forget. It merely processes on its own time. That is why the walking dead think they got away with it when they act poorly and nothing happens immediately. But the output is being compiled. It is coming. and when it arrives, you no longer connect it with the original cause. You think it's bad luck, but it is just karmic latency, the system finally delivering the result of the code you ran long ago. Karma without destiny means you can rewrite the code now, but you need rigor and karmic discipline to sustain new inputs until the old outputs stop arriving. Imagine that reality is a global electrical grid. If you touch a live, uninsulated wire, you are electrocuted. The electricity is not evil, and it is not punishing you for being a bad person. It is simply following the path of least resistance. Karma works with the same cold logic. Your mind, your patterns, your traumas, all of this is the internal wiring. If the wiring is exposed, without lucidity, without internal control, any external stimulus causes a shock. Suffering is the shock that occurs when you ignore the laws of the system's physics. You don't need more positivity or affirmations. You need to understand the Buddhist mental engineering of conductivity. The walking dead get shocked and blame the electricity. The conscious elite insulate the wiring and stop being passive conductors of external stimuli. Karma is the conductivity of your consciousness. When someone insults you and you react with explosive anger, you are conducting the electricity of the insult directly into your emotional system. There is no insulation. The stimulus enters. You are electrocuted. You act destructively. You generate more bad causes, and the cycle continues. Why? Because your wiring is exposed. Your unprocessed traumas, your unrecognized needs, your fragile ego, all of this works like a stripped wire. Any external current finds a direct path to shock you, and you, like the walking dead, think the problem is the world being cruel. But the world is just electricity, neutral, constant flow, without intention. The problem is that you are operating without cognitive insulation, without a mental firewall, without the ability to traverse the stimulus without reacting automatically. Insulation is hard lucidity. The only way to stop being electrocuted is not to pray for the electricity to stop flowing. It is to understand the engineering of the system and use insulation. In the case of the mind, insulation is Vajra intelligence, the ability to be in contact with stimuli without them triggering automatic reactions. It is seeing the insult arrive, recognizing the impulse to react, and choosing not to conduct. Not because you are peaceful or spiritually evolved, but because you understand that conducting the electricity will destroy you. It is strategy, not kindness. It is energy economy, not romantic forgiveness. When you develop this insulation through Buddhist mental training, the same stimuli that used to destroy you now simply pass through. You see the current, but you are no longer the conductor. This is mental sovereignty, not being affected not because you fled the world, but because you insulated the internal wiring. Why do you keep getting shocked? Because you treat the world as if it should be different. You expect the electricity to have mercy on you, but electricity has no consciousness, it only has flow. Karma is the same. Karma without morality means it does not care about your noble intentions or your justifications. It only responds to your actions. You can have the best intention in the world, but if you act with anger, the system processes anger. You can justify yourself by saying you were tired, stressed, or that the other person provoked you first. Karma does not hear excuses. It simply executes mental action and reaction. When you finally understand this, that the system is not against you, but is simply operating according to Buddhist causality, you stop fighting reality and start operating within its rules. And the rules are simple. Insulate your wiring or keep getting shocked. The walking dead expect the world to change. The operator of lucidity changes their mental conductivity and becomes strategically insulated against external chaos. Justice in the romantic view. Evil will be punished by the universe. Good will be rewarded. Just wait for divine justice to arrive. This is the anesthesia that keeps you passive. The cold logic of karma. Destructive actions generate chaotic environments. It is not punishment, it is physics. Do you act with violence? You create social resistance. Act with betrayal. You destroy trust. Act with negligence. You collapse structures. Karma is not justice, it is consequence. The impact on the operator of lucidity. Stop waiting for cosmic justice that never comes. Clean up your causes. Be the change in the system. When you act with integrity, you are not being morally good. You are reducing friction in the mechanism. You are operating with efficiency. The walking dead expect the universe to punish their enemies. The conscious elite focus on not generating unnecessary enemies through conscious actions. Luck in the romantic view. Bad things happen out of nowhere for no reason. It is bad luck, cruel fate, forces beyond control. This transforms you into a perpetual victim. The cold logic. Events are the fruits of invisible but real causes. There is always dependent origination. There is always a network of causes that converged to generate that output. Did you lose your job out of nowhere? No. There were signs you ignored, performance that deteriorated, relationships you did not cultivate. Nothing is random in suffering. The impact on the operator of lucidity. Develop the vision to track the origins of chaos. Become an archaeologist of your own causes. When something bad happens, do not ask, why me? Ask, what sequence of causes generated this? You will discover that there is no luck. There is only Buddhist causality operating with surgical precision. Anti-luck Buddhism means assuming total responsibility for the system you feed. Fate in the romantic view. It was written in the stars, I cannot change it. I was born this way, I will die this way. It is my inevitable karma. This is resignation disguised as spirituality. The cold logic. The system tends to repeat the pattern until it is interrupted. Inertia is not fate. It is just code running on autopilot. Karmic inertia means you are executing an old script without questioning it, but a script can be rewritten. The impact on the operator of lucidity. Use internal control to break the inertia of the loop. You can overwrite the code. Buddhist determinism does not mean everything is fixed. It means everything follows cause and effect, and if you change the causes now, the effects change later. Not instantaneously, there is karmic latency, but they change. Karma without fate is brutal freedom. You have no excuse. You cannot blame stars, genes, or the past. You are the programmer of the next second. Why does this conversion matter? As long as you believe in divine justice, luck, or fixed fate, you remain powerless. You outsource control to mystical forces. The universe will save me. One day my luck will change. I can't do anything. I was born this way. These are all sophisticated forms of victimization. When you understand karma as cold causality, as an algorithm without morality, you become the engineer of your own system. You stop waiting for external salvation and assume mental sovereignty. You recognize that every thought you nourish, every reaction you allow, every pattern you repeat is writing the architecture of your next second. And this is not poetic, it is Buddhist mental engineering. The walking dead live waiting for someone to change the game. Sovereign consciousness changes the rules by learning to manipulate causes consciously. This does not guarantee a life without pain. It guarantees that you stop being a passive plaything and become the architect of chaos, consciously choosing which causes to plant and which karmic loops to break through relentless discipline. At the beginning of the film, Neo feels that something is wrong with the world. This is dukkha, the inherent friction of living in illusion. He thinks he is a free individual making choices, but he is just a component of a system that uses his energy without his consent. He spends his days working, consuming, and reacting, believing he controls his life. But he is only executing code. The Matrix is not a personal villain wanting to destroy him. It is a mechanism of causes and conditions, pratatya samutpada in movie form. Neo is the perfect metaphor for the walking dead. He feels something is wrong, but he cannot name the problem, because the problem is himself. His belief that he is real, that his choices matter, that he exists as a separate entity. All of this is code running, and the Matrix and Buddhism converge at this point. The illusion of free will is what keeps you trapped. Karma as the Matrix means understanding that there is no person judging you. There is only a system of rules, causes, and conditions. If you punch an agent without enough strength, you get beaten. It isn't personal. It isn't because the agent hates you. It is the code being executed. Neo and Karma meet when he realizes that fighting the system without understanding the system is a waste of energy. You can punch the wall in anger 1,000 times. The wall doesn't care. It simply responds with pain in your fists. Karma without morality works like this. Do you act with anger? The system returns isolation. Act with fear? The system returns paralysis. Not because you deserve punishment, but because it is mental action and reaction operating with absolute neutrality. The walking dead fight the agents thinking they are the problem. The operator of lucidity understands that the agents are just manifestations of the code. Seeing the code of reality is the first step toward the karma hack. Neo's awakening happens when he begins to see the code, the falling green numbers. He is having a vision of the cold logic of karma. He stops seeing agents, buildings, and punches as separate entities. He begins to see the interdependence of data. Everything is the same system moving. When Neo sees the numbers, he recognizes Buddhist causality. There is no real separation between observer and observed. There is only processing. This is not a pretty philosophical insight. It is a technical recognition of the structure of experience, and this recognition changes absolutely everything. Because when you see that the insult that hurts you and the anger you feel are made of the same substance, intertwined cause and effect, you stop reacting automatically. You see the mechanism operating and choose not to feed it. This is operational Buddhism, not abstract theory, but the practical ability to see the code of your own reactivity. Neo's final hack: He stops the bullet not with magic mental power, but with the absolute comprehension that the bullet and the fear of the bullet are the same processing. When you understand that you and the system are made of the same substance, you stop being the effect and start being the cause. Practical application of this: you don't need to win against the external world. You need to understand the code that is running in your mind. When you see the code of your automatic reactions, anger, fear, neediness, they lose their power. You stop fighting the bullets and start rewriting the program. This is not Matrix and Buddhism as philosophical entertainment. It is applied Buddhist mental engineering, tracking causes, identifying patterns, mental debugging, overwriting corrupt code. The Walking Dead watch the Matrix and think it's cool. The conscious elite use the Matrix as a technical manual on how to manipulate causes consciously. Neo did not destroy the Matrix. He learned to operate within it without being enslaved by it. This is mental sovereignty, not escape from the system, but absolute lucidity about how it works and where you can intervene to rewrite causes that generate different outputs. The fundamental principle that separates the Walking Dead from the operator of lucidity: the sovereign does not try to change the world, the output. He changes the boundary conditions, the inputs. You cannot alter what has already been processed. The past is immutable data. You can only alter what is being inserted now in this second. When you understand this, you stop wasting energy trying to fix results and start focusing on causes. Toxic relationship. The problem isn't the person. It's your neediness feeding the dependency. Accumulated debt. The problem isn't a lack of money. It's the pattern of spending to fill a void. Deteriorated health. The problem isn't genetics. It's systematic negligence of the hardware. Practical karma means stopping looking at the problem and starting to track the causes that feed it. When you cut the energy input to the bug dies. Not because you prayed, because you understood the Buddhist mental engineering of the system. Technique 1. Error tracking. Mental debug. If you are suffering, there is a bug in your causes. The conscious elite do not look at suffering with self-pity. They look at it like an engineer searching for where the code is corrupted. Are you in a toxic relationship? It's no use blaming the other person. Ask, what lack in you sustains this? Fear of loneliness? Need for external validation? Addiction to drama? When you isolate the real cause, you can intervene. The hack is to cut the energy input. You don't end the relationship with drama and guilt. You simply recognize that you are feeding a destructive pattern and choose to stop feeding it. This is not coldness. It is hard lucidity. It is total responsibility over the mechanism you operate. The Walking Dead keeps suffering and blaming the world. The operator of lucidity performs daily mental code inspection and corrects bugs at the source. Technique 2. Overloading new causes. The system has karmic inertia. To change a destiny, you need to flood the present with new causes so powerful that the previous output is forced to collapse. It is like inserting new lines of code into a crashed program. The system will resist at first because it already has momentum in the old direction. But if you sustain new inputs with relentless rigor, eventually the system has no choice but to process them. The sovereign practices actions of extreme lucidity, dharma without mysticism, to neutralize years of anesthesia. Did you spend decades reacting with anger? Now you must practice non-reactivity 1,000 times to rewrite the pattern. Did you spend years neglecting health? Now you need brutal discipline to rebuild. This is not punishment, it is physics. It is how much new energy you need to insert to overcome the inertia of the old code. Why isn't this instantaneous? Because karma has latency. Karmic delay is real. The output of a new life doesn't appear in 5 minutes, but the system begins to recalculate the route at the moment of the new input. If you plant causes of clarity today, the system has no choice but to process them tomorrow, next week, or next month. But you must sustain it. The fatal error of the Walking Dead, wanting immediate results. It is another form of anesthesia. It is the ego wanting to control the timing, but you control the input, not the output. You plant, the system harvests. Karma as a programmer of reality means you write the code today and trust that the system will execute according to Buddhist causality. There is no shortcut. There is no magic hack that skips the latency. There is only the karmic discipline of continuing to insert clean causes, even when the old outputs are still arriving. And eventually, mathematically, the outputs change. Because the system does not lie, it simply executes with absolute precision the code you inserted. The Walking Dead give up in the first week. Sovereign consciousness sustains the training for months, years, decades, because it understood that mental sovereignty is not an instantaneous achievement. It is daily mental maintenance through a rigor that never stops. The event, Carlos is fired. Carlos version 1, the prisoner, the victim of chance. The reaction, He feels wronged. He spends the night drinking, complains about his boss on social media, and projects a future of misery. Upon arriving home, he takes out his frustration on his wife with sarcasm and aggression. The systemic error that the Walking Dead always commit. Carlos thinks his rudeness and drinking are justified reactions to the bad luck of being fired. He doesn't realize he is inserting new inputs of chaos into the system. Every sip of alcohol, every aggressive word, every public complaint, all of it is code being written, and the system will execute it. Karma as an algorithm does not judge whether Carlos deserves to suffer more. It simply processes mental action and reaction. Carlos drank, hardware compromised. Carlos attacked his wife, relationship deteriorated. Carlos complained publicly, reputation tarnished. 3 new bugs inserted while he thought he was merely reacting to the original problem. The output, karma, arrives quickly. The next morning, Carlos has a hangover, a physical cause he planted himself. His wife is cold and distant, a social cause he created with his aggression, and he has no energy to look for a job, the biological cause of alcohol destroying his hardware. See the trap? He started with 1 problem, dismissal. He ended with 4. Dismissal, a hangover, a damaged relationship, and an inability to act. And Carlos One's conclusion, the universe hates me. Why does everything go wrong for me at the same time? He is stuck in a karmic loop because he ignores that every reaction of his was fuel for the next disaster. There is no cosmic conspiracy. There is only Buddhist causality executing with precision. He inserted destructive causes. The system returned destructive outputs. 2 different destinies begin here, not because one Carlos has luck and the other doesn't, but because one understands practical karma and the other lives as a walking dead hostage to impulses. Carlos version 2, the Vajra operator, the code programmer. The reaction, karma hack. He feels the pain of the loss. Red pixels light up, but he uses the sovereign hiatus, Epictetus and karma converging. He understands causes with lucidity. The dismissal is external data. My next move is the only internal data under my command. He recognizes that he cannot change the output. The dismissal has already happened, but he can manipulate causes now to avoid worse outputs. He decides not to drink. Why? Not because he is virtuous, but because cleaning up causes requires functional hardware. Instead of complaining, he coldly analyzes his skills. Tracking causes. What led to the firing? Poor performance? Relationship with the boss? The market changing? He identifies data without drama. When speaking to his wife, he uses tactical neutrality. I was fired. This is a moment of uncertainty, but my commitment to our stability remains the same. No aggression, no transferring pain. The daily application of karma means not contaminating one area with the chaos of another. The change in the web of interdependence. By not reacting with anger, Carlos too does not create resistance in the relationship. By not drinking, he preserves his hardware, his brain, for the solution. The output, karma, arrives differently. The next morning, he wakes up lucid, functional hardware. His wife, feeling secure due to his integrity, offers support and contacts. A network of positive causes begins to form. He has mental clarity to draft an action plan. And Carlos II's conclusion, the terrain changed, so I changed gears. Karma didn't punish me. It simply responded to my tactical neutrality. The brutal lesson. 2 men, the same problem, opposite destinies. The first, Carlos, thinks it's bad luck, that the universe conspires against him. The second knows it's engineering. He knows that nothing is random in his suffering. Every output he receives is an exact reflection of the inputs he inserted. And when you understand this, not intellectually but operationally, you stop being a victim and become an architect. Reactivity versus sovereignty boils down to this. The walking dead react and multiply the chaos. The conscious elite respond and rewrite causes consciously to generate different outputs, not out of kindness, out of strategy, out of the hard lucidity that you are the only one responsible for the code running in your life. Mental code inspection checklist for immediate use. Step 1. Identify the crash. Is some area of your life in suffering? Financial, emotional, health, relationships? Locate where the system is stalling. Do not generalize by saying everything is bad. Be surgical. Which specific area is generating dukkha, friction? Are you in debt, socially isolated, in poor health, in a toxic relationship? Identify the crash with an engineer's precision. The walking dead say, my life is a mess. The operator of lucidity says, the financial area has stalled, probable cause, compulsive spending compensating for an emotional void. See the difference? One is a vague lament, the other is a clinical diagnosis, and only with a precise diagnosis can you intervene. Tracking causes begins by identifying exactly where the mechanism failed. Without Without this, you are trying to fix a program without knowing where the bug is. Step 2. Track the input. Which thought or behavior do you systematically repeat in that area? Do not lie to yourself. Be brutally honest. Example: I always expect the worst from people. I never have enough money. Nobody respects me. These are scripts running on autopilot. They are lines of code that you execute without questioning. Karma as an algorithm means that if you repeat, "I never have enough money," the system will process scarcity. Not because the universe hates you, but because you are programming scarcity as the default. If you repeat, "Nobody respects me," you act with the posture of someone who doesn't deserve respect, and the world responds accordingly. The logic of karma: the system does not read your intentions, it reads your actions, and your actions are guided by the scripts you run. Mental code inspection requires you to identify which scripts are running without your conscious consent. Step 3. Isolate the cause. Is this behavior an automatic reaction or a conscious choice? If it is automatic, it is the karma of inertia running old code. You are executing a script you did not consciously write. It was installed by trauma, cultural conditioning, or family patterns. Dependent origination means you inherited these scripts, but total responsibility means that now, in this second, you can choose whether to keep running them or not. The Walking Dead say it's just my personality, I was born this way. The conscious elite say it's inherited code, I can rewrite it. Step 4. Rewrite the line. What happens if you insert the exact opposite of that behavior today? Not for positivity or because someone told you to, but as a system test, as a scientific experiment in Buddhist mental engineering. Do you always react with anger? Today, test non-reactivity. Do you always flee from conflict? Today, test direct confrontation. The karma hack is not magic. It is the scientific method applied to consciousness. Step 5. Observe the delay. Karma has latency. The output of a new life does not appear in 5 minutes, but the system begins to recalculate the route the moment the new input is entered. Do not give up because you don't see immediate results. Continue inserting causes of clarity. This is what karmic discipline is, sustaining new inputs for weeks or months until the old outputs stop arriving and the new ones begin to appear. This is not self-help. It is daily mental maintenance of a complex system. If you want sovereignty, you must clean the code every day. Every automatic reaction you let pass is a line of corrupted code being executed again. The karmic checklist is not a one-time task. It is a protocol you execute forever. Every day you inspect. What bugs emerged? What causes did I plant today? What scripts ran without my permission? And then you correct them. Not with guilt or moral judgment, but with the technical rigor of someone who understands that untrained consciousness is an illusion. The Walking Dead think this is too much work. Sovereign consciousness understands that this is the only real work. Everything else is a distraction. You are the programmer of reality. And a programmer who does not perform a daily debug ends up a slave to the bugged code they created themselves through negligence. You saw karma not as mystical justice, but as mental physics. Pratyasamutpada not as abstract philosophy, but as the network of causes that either imprisons or frees you. Suffering not as bad luck, but as the exact output of inputs that you control. You saw the analogy of the electrical grid, how you get shocked not because the electricity is evil, but because your wiring is exposed. You saw the Matrix and Buddhism converging, Neo stopping the bullet by understanding that he and the system are made of the same substance. You saw the two Carloses, same event, opposite destinies, because one reacted as the Walking Dead and multiplied the chaos, while the other operated as sovereign consciousness and rewrote the causes. And you saw the debug manual, the karmic checklist that you can use today to start cleaning the code that is generating your current suffering. What changes now? You stop waiting for luck, for divine justice, for external salvation. You begin to see your life as code, and you are the programmer. Every thought you nourish, every reaction you allow, every pattern you repeat is writing the architecture of your next second. Karma as an algorithm means there is no mystery. There is only cause and effect operating with industrial precision. You plant anger, you harvest isolation. Plant fear, you harvest paralysis. Plant lucidity, you harvest sovereignty. Not instantaneously, there is karmic latency, but mathematically, inevitably. The system does not lie. It simply executes the code you inserted. And when you finally understand this, you stop wasting energy blaming the world and start moving through suffering with surgical rigor. The brutal responsibility that no one wants to assume. Nothing is random in your suffering. Nothing. The culprit, the judge, and the liberator are all using your eyes right now. The universe has no ears for your pleas, but it is perfectly sensitive to your actions. Every time you reacted with anger instead of tactical neutrality, you inserted destructive code. Every time you fled from discomfort instead of moving through it, you fed the loop. Every time you blamed external circumstances instead of performing a mental code inspection, you lost the opportunity to rewrite the pattern, and karma did not judge you morally for it. It simply processed mental action and reaction. The end of victimization begins when you recognize that you are the only variable under your control. Not the world, not the past, not people. Just you, your choices, your reactions. And this is not poetic, it is engineering. The choice that remains: continue being Carlos version 1, believing the world conspires against you, that luck has abandoned you, that fate is cruel, or become Carlos version 2, the operator who understands the code and rewrites the system. Stop asking for luck. Anti-luck Buddhism means assuming there is no luck, only cold causality. Start cleaning your causes. Execute the debug manual daily. Perform cause tracking in every area that is stalling. Isolate the automatic scripts. Rewrite the lines. Observe the delay without giving up. And understand that this is not a weekend project. It is daily mental maintenance for the rest of your life. Because you are the programmer of reality, and a programmer who does not perform maintenance becomes a slave to the bugged code he created himself. Consciousness without training is an illusion. Sovereignty without discipline is a fantasy. There is only one way: relentless rigor, every day, until it becomes second nature. The Walking Dead think this is impossible. The conscious elite know it is the only thing possible. If this content made you uncomfortable, it is because something inside you recognized the cold truth. You are the architect of your own chaos, not by conscious choice in the past, but through automatic reactivity that you never questioned. And now that you have seen the mechanism, you can no longer pretend ignorance. Implement the Karma Debug Manual today, not as self-help, as Buddhist mental engineering. Karmic checklist: identify the crash, track the input, isolate the cause, rewrite the line, observe the delay. Execute this daily, without exception, without negotiating with the ego that will say, "I'll start tomorrow." Subscribe to the channel if you want consciousness without anesthesia, karma without romanticization, sovereignty without excuses. Turn on notifications not to consume motivational content, but to sustain karmic discipline. Each video is a brutal reminder that the code is running, and you are the only one responsible for cleaning the causes. You are not a victim of the universe. You are a programmer who forgot he was programming. The system is not against you. It is simply executing with absolute precision the code you inserted. Karma is not justice. It is consequence, and consequence responds only to action. The code is running. You are the programmer. Act with precision. Operate with lucidity. Maintain the rigor.